Okay, so the first thing I did was screw up a lot. I made a big mistake and I continued to make them. Then in the long scheme of things, that's actually smart, because the more mistakes you make, the more you're going to learn, the better you're going to get at stuff. But this was also pricey, so didn't necessarily want to make a lot of mistakes and end up wasting a lot of money and time and effort, because I didn't know what I could and couldn't do on this. So when I started, I went and bought foam. I bought the wrong kind of foam. In Dave's video, he suggested to just go into Home Depot, Lowe's, equivalent, whatever you have for hardware stores, and that they've got a 4-foot by 8-foot half-inch foam, insulation foam, that you can get for $20. I went in, again, this is during the pandemic, near the end of the pandemic. Supply lines were still kind of screwy. This was winter. So insulation foam, for some reason, I couldn't find that size. And what I was finding that was approximately that size was like a 3/8 thick, and it was accordion folded. Not the stuff you want. The only thing that I found that was close to it is, well, this is scrap, leftover scrap. This is a 2x2 foot inch thick foam. This was about $20. So I bought one of these. I started cutting with a straight edge. Now, the board game itself is working off of a 1-inch square tile system. And my stupid brain was like, well, that's what I want. My wall should be within a 1-inch scale. It'll fit right on the board. And if I make them thin enough, I could just use it on the game board. I don't have to make a baseboard. That would be silly. That's stupid. Really, really stupid. So I was cutting 1-inch squares and then a 2-inch tall wall. That worked well with the doors that came with the game. It worked well with the figures. And I thought, well, if I just weighted the bottoms down, they would stand vertically and they'll sit there perfectly fine. Shouldn't be an issue. That's not the case. They don't do that. And so that's the things that I was contending with. I also started trying to puzzle out how the corners were going to work, because I couldn't just have everything, but I didn't want it to overlap, because then certain walls wouldn't be the right size. So you'd either have sections like that, or do you have the touches, the tips touch, or the touches tip? Either way. So I was trying to figure out that system. And then I started sprinting, and I haven't even learned to control how to flail my arms, as a baby metaphor, running, walking. And started thinking about the custom stuff for like Return of the Witch Lord, like the special throne room. I was going too far too fast. I was trying to make little fun custom pieces too. I was doing the wrong things. But I was also trying to figure out the scale, because if I was doing a 1-inch scale, some figures would work within that 1-inch scale, even with the walls, the thickness that I had them. But others, like the gargoyle, would constantly be sideways in the hallway, attacking you. Meow. Wouldn't work. We wanted them to be forward, facing you, wings wide, because it looks scary. Now, granted, there's always going to be some figure that you can't necessarily get squared up with. You know, like the abomination or whatever. But I was trying to get that figured out too. And I was fighting the funk. Something that I learned from a job when I worked in Omaha is don't fight the funk. You won't win against the funk. Stop fighting the funk. Give in and see what it is that is stopping you and work with it. Work within the confines of that thing. So that's what I started doing. So basically what I ended up is going back and rewatching Dave's video and saying he went with 1.5 inch square to accommodate a 1/2 inch thick wall. Then we're going to go with 1.5 inch square because that gives us the latitude to move the character around within that square. And if we're in a corner, we have 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch corner, then we've only got 1 inch square here. That's the size that it's supposed to be. The figure still work within that space because that's the smallest space that you're going to end up getting. That's what I ended up doing. So the next thing that you need to do, if you're following along at home, is score your lines. Get out a T-square. I didn't have a good T-square, so I went and bought a heavy-duty T-square. Lay that down on your board, mark out your 1.5 inch blocks, and you should be good to go. Now, since it's 1.5 inches, it's going to be a lot bigger. The board is 26 by 19. And then I made it 2 pieces. And by making it 2 pieces, it's going to be, 26 inches by, 13 by 19. So the grand scheme of things, it's going to be 28.5 inches by 39 inches big. That's how big of a piece that you need. So if you have a small hatchback or some kind of a thing like that, and you're getting the 4 foot by 8 foot foam board, that's going to be the bare minimum that you're going to cut it down to. And you're going to want some play in there because they're not going to cut it straight and they're not going to cut it well. They're going to score it and then snap it. So take that into account. So again, it's 26 squares by 19 squares. So whatever your measurement wants to be, if you want to go with a 2 inch square, you're going to have to make that adjustment in there. I also added on a 1/2 inch, well, a little over a 1/2 inch of non-used area on the outside edge, because when the board is finished, people are still going to bump up against it. Things are going to happen. So you want a little zone in there that's going to kind of protect it from things coming in. Granted, if somebody spills coffee on it, then you have to ask that 3-year-old, why are you drinking coffee? You're 3. What is wrong with you? So take that into account. Not that, 3-year-olds drink coffee, but things can happen. So once I got that done, I got that protected, I went in to get the details. I took a ballpoint pen, much like this guy, and copied the patterns that were on the board game onto the foam board. Pretty simple. They're nice little squares, and each pattern is contained within the square. Look for the bigger overall things. You got point to point. You can kind of match up where everything's supposed to be lining in, and copied it in from there. That took a while. And honestly, that kind of looks neat in itself. And the ink plus the pressure from drawing puts in that impression, and it gives you a little bit of that depth and relief as well. So, and here's the thing. It's stone. So any mistakes and flaws and whatever else that happens to it, that's perfectly fine. That is 100% fine. Because then that makes it yours. So you're ready to paint. Why are you still here? You've already carved the thing. You can go watch the next video. I'm going to put most of the painting stuff in that. Just the prepping aspect of it. So, and that's stuff that I was recording while I was doing it, as opposed to now, which is me recording it when it's done and trying to remember what I did. That's why I took videos and pictures, so I wouldn't have to remember. I thought I was going to be posting this stuff along as I was doing, but I also knew I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I'm going to stop this video here and go watch the next one whenever I get it uploaded. I'm not a YouTube creator. I don't care. I'm not here for money. I'm just putting this out there for somebody's benefit or for nieces and nephews to play at my funeral. Once I get all this HeroQuest crap finished, you know, I'll probably fall over dead, and it's their responsibility to clean it up or sell it off, or they're going to throw it all away. They're going to throw every single one of these things away. They're not going to even know what it is. Ungrateful kids. And you know who you are. You know who you are. All right, bye.